So hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's time to talk about episode 5. The show is just going from absolute strength to strength. Every week it is just getting better. This episode, I keep saying it about every episode that we see, but this one, I think, takes over as my new favourite. Before we get started, just want to remind you guys the link to my Patreon is down below, where I do a whole bunch of different reactions. I think there's like 2 uploads a day going on at the moment. Between this week and next week, there's a whole bunch of new stuff starting. I'm starting up reactions for Lockwood & Co. I'm starting reactions for The White Lotus. And I'm also starting commentary style videos on Supernatural. That's on top of the usual Buffy the Vampire Slayer, X-Files, Star Trek, Once Upon a Time, and movie reactions that are ongoing. But the more extended version of The Last of Us reactions go up over there. They're usually around half an hour long, so there's a whole lot more content in those. The link to my Twitter, Instagram, everywhere you could find me is also down below. Okay, that's the introduction out of the way. Let's get talking. Ow. Scrape myself. So, I've gotten into the habit of, when I do The Last of Us... Shh. A goldfish are trying to make a guest appearance. Shut up, please. So with The Last of Us, I got into the habit of, I do the reaction video. It's my first time watching the show. Then when I'm editing the video, I'm kind of rewatching it, and then I watch it again that night. So I watch it 2 or 3 times, and then sometimes if I particularly love it, we might go for a 4th. But I've gotten into the habit of keeping lists of things I want to say in these chats. Guys, oh my god. Okay, first of all, Percy and Kathleen. Or Catelyn, whatever you want to call her. Oof. Okay, so the first point that I made on her regarding this episode is that, you know, at the beginning, she was kind of relatable. You know, she just wanted revenge for her brother. She'd go to extreme lengths to get it. She wouldn't stop at anything. As someone who has a brother, I can relate. I can see it from her point of view. So we get this kind of sympathetic spin on her. You know, but then her turning around to Percy and saying, you know, Perry? I don't know, I just call him Sexy Santa. Was it Perry? I think it's Perry. I'm terrible with names, so then I make up nicknames, but then the bad thing about that is I'll remember the nickname and not the real name. Yeah, Perry, okay. So like her telling Perry, burn the bodies, it's faster, after she just told the people, tell me what you know and we won't kill you. We get an insight as to what she's really like, how vindictive she is, how sneaky she is, that she's just a little bit different, you know? But what really made everything click into place regarding her is when she had that talk with Perry in her childhood bedroom. First of all, loved that scene, fantastic setting, put this seemingly cold, detached leader of the rebellion, ruthless character, put her back in her childhood bedroom where she does kind of regress to a softer character. You can see it in her face is when she talked about the lightning and being afraid and how her older brother would look after her. Loved the setting for that, absolutely. It was so small, contained and personal, and it gave you a different insight to her. But anyway, her talking about the fact that her brother would be horrified by the things that she had done, and she knows this specifically because her brother told her not to go down this road. He told her, don't do that, don't become like hateful and revengeful, don't get caught up with getting revenge on the people who did this to me. That changed everything, man. Her choosing to ignore her dying brother's wishes and go down this road of revenge and, you know, hatred. Again, as a sister to a younger brother, I can totally get that. I relate to her wanting revenge, wanting some kind of against the people who killed her brother. But her brother knew, and he knew her well enough that even while he was dying, he knew what she'd want to do. He knew that she'd want to get revenge, and he knew that that would destroy her. He knew she'd turn out this way, and he tried to stop it, but she just did not listen. One of my favourite parts of her character is how she died. Yeah, that sounds morbid, but her giving this big speech to Henry about how kids die, Henry, you know, and don't you think maybe it was his time? Cold, ruthless. I would have killed her then and there. But outside of that, her then being killed by a kid that had turned so poetic, so divine, loved it. Also, yes, Percy died too. My guy really thought he could go up against a bloater and get his head ripped clean off his shoulders. Was it worth it, Perry? Was it? Considering he gave her life for her and then she died seconds later. I mean, I guess when he died, he didn't know that she was dead, so in his head, he saved her. Bless him. Also, yeah, his death was just divine. Him getting his head just straight off. It was just so quick. It just happened. There was no dramatic showdown. There was no big scene made of it. My guy just got beheaded. and we moved on. I like scenes like that because it shows you how brutal this world is. It shows you some of us really just don't stand a chance. Doesn't matter how brave you are, doesn't matter how ready you think you are, sometimes you go up against a creature and it just kills you. Anyway, yeah, moving on to Henry and Sam. I made the same point about them that I did about Kathleen in regards to I have a baby brother. If I were in Henry's shoes, I would have done exactly everything he did step by step, down to him selling out the brave man, or God, what's his goddamn name? Michael, Kathleen's brother. Him telling that whole story. I relate, and I would have done the same thing. It sucks to see him carry so much guilt over it and carry so much, personal baggage. Like him saying, I did a bad thing, so I'm a bad man. No, and that's what I love about shows like this, about apocalypse shows, about the whole you gotta do what you gotta do thing. Doing a bad thing doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. It depends on the reasoning, and it depends on what you do after you do the bad thing. Is it a habit? Is it a part of a pattern with a character? And I think this is going off course, and this doesn't really have anything got to do with Henry. I think as well with TV, people forget that just in general with characters that make morally grey decisions, or characters that do things that aren't deemed good, sometimes a character is a vehicle for a story. A character is there to tell a story that has points, that hits the marks. Not every character needs to be 100% morally correct. You know, and that's what I love about shows like this, when you have characters doing things that they deem the right thing, or that they know is the wrong thing, but they gotta do it. I like seeing that in TV, instead of just having characters that are 100% good or 100% bad. That was going completely off the rails as to where I wanted to go, but I needed to make that point. Not that I think anyone is saying that about Henry, because I think everybody kind of agreed with Henry's reasoning and why he did what he did. But yeah, I loved seeing him try to contain Sam's childhood to an extent. Like when you see them in the attic, he's giving him crayons, he's having him colour on the walls, he's keeping him protected in this little bubble where he can be a kid for now. But then when they gotta leave, you see him it's not spray paint, he doesn't fucking mace the poor child into the eyes. You see him paint over Sam's eyes to give him that superhero thing. It's like we're taking a little bit of that childhood with us outside of this little safe cocoon that we were in. And I love that. Again, when you have kids in a show like this, in a end of times show or an apocalyptical setting, you always have the older characters be faced with this dilemma of, do you try and maintain their innocence? Do you try to keep them shielded as much as you can? Or do you just introduce them to this world, and childhood be damned, I'm sorry, but you gotta learn. And I love watching that play out. We saw Henry kind of struggle with that a little bit throughout this episode. Like I said, when he had to come to terms with the fact that no one was coming back for them, they had to leave, and him having Sam be the one have the gun on Joel, that's a very adult situation to put a kid into. That must have been difficult for him to do. And then, like later on with the playroom situation where you can see Sam and Ellie just be kids. You see them play with the toys. You see them get excited over comics. It was lovely to see, and I love getting small, brief moments of complete normalcy like that in these types of shows, because you do get so caught up in the gunfire, in the kill all the zombies, kill the whatever you want to call them, clickers, whatever, kill anything that moves. In general apocalypse shows, there's very rarely time for small moments of normalcy. So seeing them get to be kids and bond over the comics. There was a scene as well that I really liked slightly earlier on from when they found the playroom. It was the scene where Henry was speaking is difficult. It was the scene where Henry was handing Sam the crayons, and there's a brief moment where he kind of pulls them back from him and Sam starts laughing. To me, that mirrored the scene where Joel was teaching Ellie how to use the gun, or how to hold the gun, and you see him tug it back off of her, and she kind of starts giggling. There's a lot of parallels with Henry and Joel and Ellie and Sam in this, and I really liked it. I feel like everyone that Joel comes across, they're teaching him something in regards to how to be as a person, how to be a bit softer. And you see it so much, because Ellie, in certain situations, it's almost like you can see her hardening. You can see her getting harder and colder to the world. Not in a moral way, just in a, okay, that happened, we need to keep going sort of way. Because she was born after the outbreak. This is all she's known. Whereas with Joel, who is so tough, so hard, so Mr. I eat nails for breakfast, it's nice to see him start to soften as the episodes go on and as the scenes progress, as Ellie seems to toughen. Anyway, let's talk about Joel and Ellie. I love them. Yes, the scene where she says that's just his voice. That felt like a personal attack, alright? Because I love Pedro's voice. I love how he sounds like he's about to just absolutely hit a bitch at any given moment. That is just the way he sounds, and we love it. Her trying to coax him into talking to Henry and Sam, where Sam introduces himself and you can see Joel just sitting there like... She has to remind him to socialise and to say his name. We get these small moments between them as well, where it's just such dad moments. Like when they're about to go down into the tunnels and he tells Ellie to take out her gun and she pulls it out of her pocket. It was such a brief moment, like blink and you'd miss it. But the look that he gives her is such a disappointed, like, I told you put it in your bag kind of look. I loved the scene with Joel and Henry where they're sitting while Sam and Ellie are playing. And Joel kind of opens up a small bit and he was like, look, I'm sorry, I don't know your situation. And you see it way later on in the episode as well when he invites him to come to Wyoming with him. He's trying, you know what I mean? He's trying to open up, he's trying to soften up a little bit. And I think he sees a lot of himself in Henry. He sees like, hey, I would do a lot of the same things you did. Henry also gave one of my favourite lines this episode. Two lines that were probably my favourite this episode. The one where they're walking in the tunnels and he says, your dad's a real pessimist or something like that. And then later in the playroom where he says, you might not have been her dad's, but you were someone's. I love that shit. I love that you can be as cold as you want to be or put up as many walls as you want, but there's still going to be people that pick up on small little things. People that relate to you, that see something in you without you ever saying anything. And I loved that. I think Henry as a character was fantastic. My guy made some personal choices that really had me questioning, like, what you doing? Like when they were hiding down behind the car and he tried to run away with Sam, I was like, you're gonna get your baby brother fucking killed, man. Why are you running? Where are you going to? There's a sniper. Yeah, but coming back to Joel briefly, he tried to give the guy, the sniper, an out. You know, he asked him to slide the gun over here. I don't want to do this. I think that was a perfect example of Joel, again, as a character. This super tough dude who will do whatever needs to be done, but at the same time doesn't necessarily want to do it. Like, he doesn't want to do shit that he doesn't have to do, but will still step up. What's the saying? Step up to the plate, step up to the stairs. What I'm trying to say is he didn't want to kill your man, the sniper, but he did. He tried to give him an out, my guy wouldn't listen. The scene where he's up there, being the sniper angel up in the attic, saving Ellie and Sam and Henry, probably my favourite scene that we've had from the show, by far. Like, we've seen Ellie and Joel progress from when they first met to now. We've seen them warm a little bit to each other, but this scene showed how in tune they actually are. They could communicate just through looks. One, my God, the fear in his eyes while he was trying to watch out for her. But they could communicate just by looking at each other. She'd give him a look and look at a car or whatever, and he'd go, alright, yeah, that's what we're going for. And then he would watch her and pick off anything that got too close to her. They worked so well as a team. It was like they were breathing in sync. Yes, I loved the Walker pit. All the dudes coming up. I shouldn't call it Walker because we're dealing with a complete different show, but like years of conditioning by the Walking Dead, man, it's just my go-to word. All the damn creatures that came up out that floor was... I think it's the sound. I honestly think it's the sound department that really makes this show what it is. Because when there's gunfights, it doesn't sound like gunfights usually sound in shows. It doesn't sound almost cartoon-like. It sounds realistic. It sounds frightening. Same with the creatures. Because if I call them clickers, there'll be people going, well, there was bloaters there too. I know. We'll just call them infected. Yeah, that's better, infected. Just before they all came crashing up out of the sinkhole in the floor, there was a moment of dead silence where you could hear the car falling into the hole. You could hear the yolks scurrying around under the ground like rats. And then it was the silence just before that made that big pop goes the weasel scene of infected so much more impactful. The sound department on this show they're something else. I say as if I know anything about sound design. I don't, but I know when I like it. Henry giving himself up. He did give himself up. He stood up and was like, right, I'm coming out. That was so fucking brave. He got upstaged a little bit by the house eating the car and then all the infected coming up out the floor. But that was so brave of him. One thing I loved as well is you have this whole group of infected come up out of the floor. You got Perry dying, you got Kathleen dying, and then we just move on. We just leave. I mean, like the camera, the story. Joel, Ellie, Sam and Henry fuck off and we fuck off with them. Do we see where this whole herd is going? Do we see what anarchy they're about to ruin down on someone's day? We probably will see it in a later episode, but no. We were just like, okay, they're there, but now we're leaving. Bye. And I loved that, jumping in and out of scenes and leave. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know what I'm trying to get at with that, but I hope you understand. I don't get it, but I hope you do. Yeah, like I said earlier, that the scene where Joel says to Henry that you can come with us if you want to. I think he saw when Henry ran out to save Ellie in the middle of that gunfire shoot down scene. He saw he could trust him, and that's the marker for Joel. It's not necessarily can I trust you with me, because I don't think Joel ever will trust anybody with himself. But he saw Henry run out to save Ellie, and that's what clicked in Joel's head as, okay, he's now on my good list. So he invited them to come along, which obviously didn't work out. One question I had is, why did nobody check Sam? You guys, especially Joel, you've been alive in this world for I don't know how long at this point, like 20 years. It should be ingrained into you that if you get stuck in a situation, first thing you do is you check yourself and others as soon as you get to a safe place. And especially because Sam and Henry, they were stuck under a car and they had things gnawing at all their limbs, like while they were under that car. Why did nobody check him? Loved the scene between Ellie and Sam in the bedroom. The admission to she's terrified of being left alone, and then his admission of, I've been bit. Even though he didn't really say it that way, it was, if you turn, he's still you. Ellie is this character that she's so tougher than nails, yes, we know. She is still a kid underneath it all, and this was the perfect example of showing that, where you see her try to smear her blood onto the bite mark on Sam's leg. She understands that she's immune, she understands what she's been told, which is her blood is medicine. That's what she's been told. But she doesn't even fully understand what that means. She doesn't fully get how that would be. There's that childlike innocence of, oh, my blood is medicine, then I'll just smear some on you and you should be okay. Seeing that come through, and then the absolute horror that was the morning after when he turns and attacks her. That scene is probably very close second for my absolute favourite. Just after Sam attacks Ellie and they break into the room that Henry and Joel are sleeping in, Joel tries to go to her and Henry shoots at the floor in front of Joel to stop him. The look on Pedro, he killed that scene. The look on Pedro's face when he realises, I can't get to her, but I want to. The look of absolute frustration, confusion and like rage. It was just divine. And outside of that, he didn't have a gun. Henry took the gun off of him. So what was his plan there? Was he going to jump in and fist fight Sam off of Ellie? That, like, without even thinking, that's what he was going to do. Her screaming at Joel as well, I have to say. A lot of people were pointing that out. The sound she made after Henry shot Sam and then himself. Yeah, she made this really, like, just like guttural, aching sound. Yeah, I agree. That was acting. My God. Bella killed it. But what got to me worse in that scene was when she was screaming out Joel's name. She sounded like an absolute terrified fucking child, and his name was the only lifeline that she had. That scene is probably my favourite outside of the sniper in the attic situation. Joel twigged instantly what was going to happen. He knew how Henry was going to go. That's why he tried to get the gun off him. It was a horrible situation. It was horrible, but at the same time, I would have done the same thing probably if that had been me and my brother. I don't know that I could live through that or after that. The show is really good at playing on like relationship dynamics, putting you in the point of view of whatever character it is, whether it's a sibling or a romantic partner. It really does. It does so good at putting you in there. Both their deaths were absolutely traumatic as all hell, Henry and Sam's. And Henry's final moments as well. The actor that plays him, pure shock, grief, disassociation. You could see it on his face. And sadly, he'd like made up his mind already as to what he was going to do once Sam had died. That scene. Following that though, the graveyard scene where Joel buried them and you see Ellie put down the I'm sorry note on Sam's grave. She's going to carry this. She's going to take that on herself as to, well, I'm the reason he didn't survive. I couldn't save him. Or, like, the longer we're out here, the longer it takes us to get to the place to make the cure, more people like this are going to die. More people than I know, than I will ever meet. And I'm responsible for that. And seeing a kid have to shoulder that much responsibility is just cruel. But she brought Joel his bag and I think it was his jacket. And then she walked off while Joel was still just slapped in the face by feelings at the grave. She calls him. And that to me was just like, oh, he needed a moment. You can see him kind of shut down by the grave, where she was like on to the next thing already. She was like, come on, like, let's go, I'm ready. Again, that kind of young, born after the outbreak mindset, especially that she has, knowing the role that she plays. Yeah. She's already learning how to distance herself emotionally from things, or at least put her emotions in little boxes and put them up on shelves to deal with later on. Joel does that too, but this was, in my opinion, this was just one of the scenes that we saw that slip regarding him. I don't blame him either for needing a moment, because like in the last few episodes particularly, we really have seen that everybody he gets close to dies. Everybody that he tries to build a relationship with or like let in some way, they die. Like we saw it with Tess, who he'd been with for years. We saw it with Bill and Frank, who he had known and trusted for years. And then we see it with Henry and Sam as well. He had just decided to let them come along. He had just told Henry, like, yeah, you know, we might be walking, but you can come with us. And I think it's interesting seeing it from his point of view, because he's somebody who he doesn't really open up easy. He doesn't really trust that easily. He's just that kind of person, that kind of character. So seeing him have to deal with loss after loss after loss after loss in the space of like 3 episodes. I don't think I'd ever talk to another human ever again. I'd be like, I give fucking up. I give up. Fuck it. No friends for me, I guess. The little acrobatic demon in the car as well that attacked Ellie was one of the absolute standouts for me. Yeah, I've read that the kid who portrayed that creature was, I think she was a gymnast or something. My God, you could tell. She was backflipping her way to her next dinner trying to get to Ellie. That was so unnerving, the way they moved, the way they sound. I always found the clickers scariest, just the regular ass clickers. I don't know why, they just always did something to me. But my God, that scene where they came shooting out of that hole in the house like fucking death confetti, that got me. Really did. I'm looking forward to getting to see more of them. I think the makeup and the prosthetics has been outstanding. Obviously, it's a HBO show. They have a budget out the fucking ass. You know, they can afford this shit, but you can't deny it. The special effects, the CG, the makeup, it's stunning. Yeah, those are some of my points, because I've already hit the half-hour mark as I'm talking, and I don't know, I don't know how long it's going to be after editing, so we're going to stop it just there. Let me know what you think regarding this week's episode. Ugh, I love it. Yeah, I was really happy that it was airing early as well, and then, you know, I realised that it airing early meant we're going to have to wait 2 extra days for the next fucking episode. Now I'm like, it's been a week. It's been a week and we're still 2 days off of a new episode. And as you can tell, I'm handling the Pedro obsession like a complete normal person. Yeah, that's it for this week's video, you guys. As I said at the beginning, the link to my Patreon, where I do a whole bunch of other content, is in the description box down below, along with my Twitter and my Instagram and anywhere you could want to say hello to me. Shouldn't have done that. I feel a little bit dizzy now. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you all soon.